Man, let me tell you something. Multifamily buyers, this is next level when you can begin transacting with the other side in mind, showing empathy, thinking of their needs during a transaction. When you're doing that, brokers and sellers are going to be bringing you their deals for sale before the public has even heard about it. Let's go! I was just on James Nelson's podcast, and James is one of the top selling investment sales brokers in all of New York. And we had an awesome conversation that led to talking about empathy and transacting. We talked about how unfortunately rare it is that we see it when both parties are considering each other's needs. But as multifamily brokers, we both agree those who can display empathy during the transacting, those guys are killing it in this business.
You talk about the need for empathy. You think this is a pretty transactional business. You know, you got your buyer, you make an offer. These are my terms. Do I have to be empathetic? Do I really have to care about what I'm doing? So talk about why empathy, first of all, it's the right thing to do, but talk about kind of the difference and the way that these elite investors act to embody that.
Besides building the relationships in an actual organized manner with brokers, the number one most powerful tool of those who trade the most frequently is empathy. We all know empathy means thinking about the other person and putting yourselves in their shoes, but it's so overlooked in this business because everyone's out for themselves. They're trying to win instead of keep a reputation intact. Every single transaction has something that comes up with it. It's extremely rare where from soup to nuts, from contract to close, that nothing happened. It was just the smoothest thing in the world. It's super rare. Something always comes up. And if you can start training your mind as an investor to think about the other party, it goes so far, man. It's so far. Like when a red line comes back from the seller, instead of saying, that's ridiculous, never in the history of the world have I ever seen a seller ever cross through that on my contract. I've done, and I literally get this all the time, James. I've done 600 transactions. I've bought 32,000 units. No one has ever in the history of the world crossed through that part in my contract. It's like the dumbest thing you can say because I'm listening to it and I'm already thinking, I'm never bringing this guy another deal. I just don't want to work with a guy like that who says things like that. Instead, I want to work with the guy who says, all right, so he crossed through that. All right, he's probably thinking, if I'm the seller, he's probably thinking, he's trying to protect this and this is a concern to him. All right, I understand that. Beau, if you will please call the seller, ask him if the reason he crossed through that is because of this, so I can make sure I understand it, and then we can come up with a solution. And even type that out in an email. That way, I, as the broker, can forward an incredibly thoughtful, empathetic question like that to the seller. And what that does for the seller is he reads that and he's like, oh, like this dude's totally trying to, work with me. Like he gets me. He's looking out for me. And immediately that seller will go from ultra protecting himself. And he starts to think, okay, well, man, I can probably budge on that a little bit. It's not a big deal, right? As soon as someone feels like you're working with them, they lighten up. It's a big deal. And hiring empathetic attorneys. Huge deal. There are investors who I don't bring deals to. I can't stand their attorney. I know that any buyer who turns in something, it's going to get redlined ad nauseum. So hiring attorneys who think, okay, well, the buyer, he didn't like this red line that I did. Well, he probably doesn't like that because of this. Okay, let's work with them. And we get on the phone and we have conversations that are empathetic. Hey, Mr. Seller, my guess is you probably crossed through this because of that. Is that right? He's like, yeah, that's right. I mean, it makes sense to me. I would probably be the same way. What about this? Well, can you live with this? And we have conversations like that instead of, listen, no way we can live with that. But we get that all the time. A lot of the time, buyers and or sellers think they can pile through and get a deal done because maybe it's happened before. And so they multiply that forward instead of just being empathetic. You're not being empathetic just to try to get a deal done. It's being empathetic because that's what's going to earn you more deals down the road. Everything you're doing is so that you don't have to make calls to do deals. They're flooding you. The most elite guys I know, they're getting flooded with deals. They're coming into their office on a Tuesday day and they can't even make a phone call. They've already got emails from brokers and messages from brokers about, yo, just got this deal, just got this deal, just got this deal. That's how it happens.
Hey, thanks for giving that segment of the podcast a watch. If you got some good value out of it, please give me a like down below and a subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one.